everybody, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. I'm Lauren, and in this video, I'm gonna be making over these two beautiful French Provincial pieces by Thomasville Furniture Company. And I absolutely love working with Thomasville. I rarely pass up a Thomasville piece. It is a well-known brand. It is super high quality furniture. Let's give this set a brand new makeover. I got this set for just $125 on Facebook Marketplace, and the previous owners took really great care of these pieces. The only few spots are on the top of this long dresser that are just a little bit, we have some failing finish going on, so we're definitely going to address that here pretty soon. First things first though, we're gonna remove this hardware. This is a beautiful, elegant French Provincial hardware, and if you've been around long enough, you know that I rarely ever, I don't think I have ever gotten rid of the original French Provincial hardware that comes on these beautiful pieces of furniture. So I'm gonna be setting them aside and installing them at the very end. Let's get to it. So I've had this set for probably about a year now, and it's just been sitting out on the floor, and I just stare at it every single day because it is so beautiful. I don't think I have 100% completely sure, definitely decided what I'm gonna do with these pieces. I feel like a lot of people are gonna come for me if I paint it, but I do love painted furniture, especially French Provincial. What would you do? Let me know down in the comments, because this is the beginning of the project, and obviously by the end of this video you'll know what I chose, but I'm curious what you would do if you had this set. Would you paint it? Would you leave the tops wood? Would you leave it as is and just fix the minor blemishes on the top of the other piece? Would you strip it down and leave it raw wood? I'm kind of torn between stripping it down and leaving it raw wood, even though I know I just did a piece like that, but the other option would be to paint it and leave the top wood. So I'm just curious, comment down below, what would you do? We are going to go ahead and remove this hardware since that is an easy decision to make. It has to come off for cleaning. And I always just keep on hand like these old containers that, you know, have different things. Like this one, I think it's from my Nana, and she collects these for me as well. This one's an old ice cream bin, and it's gonna be perfect for all these large French Provincial handles that I'm gonna stick in here. I also save cottage cheese containers, yogurt containers. It's great for keeping hardware or even, you know, putting paint in there, etc., etc. While I'm at it, I'm gonna go ahead and remove any paper that's inside the drawers. It is time to clean. I have got my degreasing furniture prep cleaner. It does not require a rinse. Whenever you're cleaning, you just want to make sure that you have a degreasing cleaner. It could be Simple Green, Dawn dish soap, crud cutter, this cleaner. There's other options as well, but it has to degrease your surface because you're looking to get all the oils off. The oils would prevent the primer from sticking really well and adhering well to your surface. So that's why you always want to make sure you're using a degreaser. I like to spray it on, let it sit for a little bit, and then we'll wipe it all off. This one isn't too dirty. Like I said, the owners kept really great care of it. So really all it is surface dust, and then there's a lot of dust underneath where the hardware was, because sometimes with the French Provincial, it doesn't sit all the way flush, so it kind of allows dust to get back in there. This set looks to me like it was made in 1969, so it's quite an old set. So, you know, those pieces of hardware probably have never been removed, because who just removes hardware to clean behind it? Not a lot of people. So I will be cleaning all of the dust off before we get started on the scuff sanding portion. I said scuff sanding was next, but we are actually just gonna be sanding the tops to raw wood. I still haven't 100% decided what I'm gonna do, and I feel like I do this on a lot of projects, but I don't know. It's just, I haven't decided, and it's okay. So what I'm gonna do is, I know I for sure wanna have some type of wood on this piece, because the pieces are 100% solid wood. There's no like particle board or anything like that. And I'm pretty sure that this doesn't even have veneer on the top. So I'm gonna sand this down. There is quite a bit of failing finish over here, but I can see the wood grain and that it's really pretty, and I wanna be able to save that. So I am gonna be using my 5-inch orbital sander from Surf Prep, and then I'm gonna be using an 80 grit, but this is their new White Lightning sanding disc, and it's actually like ceramic. It has ceramic on it, so it should really eat away at this finish pretty quickly. I wouldn't necessarily want to use this on a veneer, but like I said, because we are working with solid wood, it should be okay, and it should make the job a lot quicker. And then also I like to use these Bluetooth headphones. They are noise canceling, so I'm not getting such loudness from the sander. And then I can also listen to my audiobook while I'm at it. So I was a little bit wrong. The tops actually do have a veneer, but it's still solid wood underneath, but I did kind of burn through it a little tad bit right on the front of it. Later on, when I do the paint wash on the top here, I'll do my best to like mask that, so we won't be able to tell that I burned through it a little bit. But no big deal. I was kind of bummed because I really did think that it was like a solid wood piece. But anyway, we're gonna move on to scuff sanding. I'm gonna scuff sand the body of the piece here so that I can go ahead and have really good adhesion with the primer that I'm gonna use. And I decided that I'm only gonna be keeping like the very top parts wood. I'm gonna be painting the edging here. I've never done that before, I don't think, but I think that it'll kind of be a unique look where the paint will come all the way up to this edge and we'll tape off the top when we go in prime. I'm gonna be using my 3x4 now, and this has a foam abrasive pad. It's a medium grit, so I am going to be getting just a little bit of tooth onto these pieces, again, for that adhesion. And the reason I'm doing a foam pad is because French Provincials lend itself to having a lot of curves, and I don't want to compromise any of those curves or corners, so that is why I am using the foam abrasive, because it'll really contour to those curves and corners and things like that. I got all of the dressers, both of them all scuff sanded. So next step is to remove all that dust that I created, and I'm gonna do that first by using a vacuum to get all of it up as much as possible before then I wipe it down again with just some water and a damp rag. So next, we get rid of it. Taping off the insides of the drawers just for a little bit of protection from any overspray that may happen, and then also I taped off the tops. That was a little bit of a tedious job, but we got it done. And I also went ahead and put some plastic on the top so that none of the wood grain gets any primer on it. I'm gonna go ahead and fill up my HomeRite Super Finish Max that I'm gonna be using for this flip, at least for the primer portion. And I'm gonna be putting the Bin Advanced primer. I got it tinted in a gray color, but this is a water-based bin, and it's really similar to the shellac-based, but because it's water-based, it has a lot simpler cleanup. And I have had no issues with it with the bleed through or anything like that. So it really truly acts as a bin shellac base, and it does a great job blocking any stains that may pop through. I just like them to tint it to like a gray. They just add a little bit of black paint into the primer, and then it tints it to gray. And just depending on like what color I'm going for on the final coat, that'll depend on if I just am gonna use white or if I'm gonna use gray. I don't have a ton left, so I'm hoping that half of this can is gonna be enough for full coverage on these two pieces. I'm gonna spray with the drawers in, and I'll use my spray tent over there to get things started and to kind of eliminate any overspray in the shop here. I have like a tiny bit of some white of this primer, same primer, it's just not tinted, so I might throw that in there as well, just to get like a tad bit more. And of course, we're always gonna strain any primer or paint before putting it into the sprayer, because there could be chunks. A lot of the times there gets some buildup on the edges of the jars, and so we want to make sure to strain that before putting it through our sprayer, because later on down the road when I'm spraying, I don't want to have to stop and unclog my sprayer. That is always a hassle. So it's time to spray. I've got my cardboard here so I can test out my spray pattern before I spray onto the piece. It just ensures that it's the right spray depth, or like the right consistency of primer, and that I don't need to adjust any of the settings. This is the HomeRite Super Finish Max, a great beginner friendly sprayer. So right off the bat, it sprayed out way too much, so I'm gonna adjust by putting down my airflow a little bit, trying again. Okay. So I probably adjusted it too much. I'm gonna go back up a bit. That's better. All right, now we can spray on the piece. it is time to put some paint on this set here, and I was not sure which color I was gonna choose for this set. So I swatched out a couple of colors that I've been wanting to use lately, and I think I have it nailed down, but the colors were Badlands, Smoky Mountains, and Cactus. And the Badlands is a very neutral tan color. Smoky Mountains is a gray, but it does have a little bit of some blue and green undertones. And then Cactus is that like sage green color that I just absolutely love. On this one, I decided to stay away from the green, and I think that this set is going to look best in the Badlands color. So I am going to be using Badlands by Dixie Belle. It is a silk paint, which means that it does have the primer and top coat built in. But the primer that's built in here is more so a bonding primer. And so that is why I still went ahead and primed my pieces, because I did kind of sand through the finish when I was sanding on all those curves. And I wanted to make sure that none of those wood tannins popped through, since I know this is a wood piece. So that is kind of the method to my madness of like why I did what I did. I'm not sure if I'm gonna top coat it or not. The only reason that I might top coat this set is because I may want it to be a different sheen. The silk paint dries down to a pretty matte finish, and so I'll have to decide if I like the matte or if I wanna go more of a satin finish once I'm finished up. So I'm gonna go ahead and strain this into my paint sprayer. Same like we did with the primer. I always am doing this just to make sure that no chunks are left behind inside of the spray gun. And then I'll also be adding just a tad bit of water into my sprayer as well. This will just help the paint seep through just a little bit better. Something that I kind of like to do is I like to just put some inside of my container. It's like an ounce or two. And then I will put the lid back on, shake this up, and then it kind of gets all of the paint that is stuck. This is pretty thick sometimes, just depending on the color and the batch you get. But then I will have a little bit of extra, and then this will thin it out a little bit, but it's also allowing me to utilize a majority of the paint that's in the jar versus leaving some behind. So that will strain in there, and then we'll be able to get coat number 1 on. Typically, I use a zebra brush to do the insides of the drawers when I spray with the drawers inset, but this time I'm gonna try something different. I have already taped the insides of the drawers on like the edges, so I haven't gotten any overspray on this side of the drawers, the sides of the drawers, which was the goal of putting that tape there. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep using my sprayer, but instead of using the brush, but I am going to just kind of pull out each drawer, use some cardboard to mask off the inside a little bit more, and then I'm going to take my sprayer and move this right across like so. So I've done this in the past, just not very carefully, so I always kind of end up with overspray everywhere inside the drawers and things like that, but I'm going to go nice and slow, do my best to just try and make sure that we're not getting a ton of overspray on the insides of the drawers. But I think this will be a little bit faster than having to do multiple coats of the paint with the zebra brushes. Most of the sides of the drawers are already painted. The paint kind of went inside there, so I don't really need to worry about that. If there's some that needs to be a little touched up, I can also spray that, but really it's just the tops of the drawers. So we're gonna get started with that and see how it goes. Top coat time. I decided to go ahead and do a top coat because I don't love the sheen just for these specific pieces. Sometimes I don't put a top coat over the silk, but like I said earlier, the silk does dry in a matte finish, which is good sometimes, but this one I just wanted to kind of make it a bit more glossy. So I'm gonna be using this Lily Moon Paint Stellar Shield, and it has like a low luster. I kind of consider it to be a little bit more on the satin side, a little bit shinier than the Dixie Belle satin, and I think this will be perfect for the French Provincial pieces because I want them to look higher end. They are high end pieces after all, they're Thomasville, and these are some of the heaviest pieces that I've ever worked with. But what we're gonna do with the top coat is I'm gonna dump it into my sprayer that already has some remnants of the paint that I used. So sometimes, well, anytime that you can really, it's a good idea to just have some of the paint tint some of your top coat. That way there's no question that there's not going to be like any milkiness or cloudiness or streaks that go on. This is especially true with darker paint, but I figured since I've already got a little bit of leftover here in my sprayer, I might as well just dump the top coat in. And the one thing that you want to make sure of is that you're not dumping too much top coat in so that you have a ton of extra and then you can't really use it on any other project because you've tinted it to the color of this project, if that makes sense. So I did dump like the excess of the paint out back into the jar of it, and so I really just have like the remnants of what's coated on the bottom and the sides of this jar. So I'll just kind of mix this up and then we will strain just like we have with the primer and the paint, because we want to make sure that there is absolutely no chunks that are going to come out into the sprayer for potential clogs. All right, I think that should be plenty. I did just a little less than half of this jar. It'll be plenty for a couple of coats of the top coat to protect all of the paint on these French Provincial pieces. Go ahead and mix this up. Make sure that it is all incorporated, like the same color. Now that the top coat is dry, I am gonna take the plastic off of the top of both dressers and we are going to attack the tops. Now, I'm pretty sure that I wanna do a paint wash, but I'm also interested to see what the wood would look like if I just put a top coat on it and how it would look with this color. But if I do end up doing a paint wash, I don't want it to be too light. I still want to have like a dark contrast, but not too dark. So we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead and start peeling back the tops here. I went ahead and got the hardware all installed and it's looking so good. The last thing that I need to tackle here are the tops, the wood tops, and I am gonna go a little bit darker than they currently are. If I just sealed them up with water or with like a top coat, they would be still a little bit darker, but I'm thinking I wanna go an even darker, warmer brown. And so what I'm gonna use is Lily Moon's Old Fashioned Gel Stain. And this is just going to add a little bit of depth and a little bit more contrast to the existing bottom finish. And I think that this is going to really bring them all together. I'm super excited to see what it's gonna look like once this stain goes on. So what I like to do is mist the tops of my pieces, and then I will put the stain in here. That way it's easy for me to just sponge out with my sponge applicator pad here, the blue one. I will get this a little bit wet as well, and then we'll just go to town. If there's any excess, I will wipe it off with my lint-free cloth here. But other than that, it's just gonna be a pretty simple process. Just a light mist over the surface of everything. This kind of helps it not absorb into the wood too quickly, but helps it like evenly be applied before it dries too quick. That's why I like using water-based stains as well. You know, this is kind of acts as a pre-stain for water-based stain instead of like a regular pre-stain for oil-based products. All right, here we go. I love that. It's gonna dry obviously down a little bit lighter than this, but it's already looking great. Next, we'll do the top one. So before we show you the after of this set, let's take a look back at what we started with. These beautiful Thomasville dressers that I got for $125, and they really were in great shape, but I wanted to go ahead and paint them. So here's the befores and here is the afters and what they look like now. I think that they are completely transformed in such a good way. I went back and forth and debated whether or not I wanted to strip them down and make them into still wood, maybe even stain it darker, maybe go with like a raw wood lighter look. But I am so glad that I just decided to go with my gut and paint them in this beautiful neutral color. I think that even though it's like a lighter color, it's still pretty moody. And then the pairing with the dark stain on top is absolutely perfect. I'm so glad that I did go ahead and do the darker stain. I was talking with my friend Lauren at Rags to Riches Refurbishings, and she was like, definitely needs to go darker on the top just for some of that contrast, especially with the darker handles. And I'm so glad that I did. Thank you guys so much for voting over on Instagram for this Badlands color. I'll link it down below in the description, along with all of the other materials that I used for this flip. And speaking of materials, let's talk numbers and figure out what the potential profit is going to be on this two-piece Thomasville set. So the initial cost cost up front is $125 for these two gigantic solid wood Thomasville French Provincial pieces. And I thought that that was absolutely a steal. Went and picked them up at a nursing home and brought them back to the shop, but I've held on to them for about a year now, and I spent $15 in primer, $45 in paint. Top coat costs around $20. The stain costs $5, and then the miscellaneous costs, just like cleaning supplies and sanding materials, different things like that, costs around $15. So total, we're all in for material costs at $100. So our total cost up front is $225, which I know we saved a ton of money by reusing the original hardware, which I love to do on French Provincial pieces, and it does truly save you a lot of money. So $225 all in, not a bad all in price in my opinion. That is a perfect area so that you're still going to get a substantial amount of profit. I'm going to be listing these on Facebook Marketplace for $1,225. So if you do the math, we'll do around $1,000 in profit if I get that full asking price, which I'm really hoping that I do, because like I said, I can't go down on this price much because these are such high quality pieces. They are on metal tracks, solid wood, they're Thomasville. I have high hopes. Let me know down below in the description if you think that that's a pretty good price. Do you think I should go higher? Do you think I should go lower? What would you do in your area? Because every single market is different. But on Facebook Marketplace, I always list my furniture for sale on that platform. And some of the key elements that I want to include in my listing, I've had a lot of people asking lately about listing on Facebook Marketplace, and I just want to include as many details as possible without them having to second guess their purchase. So I am including dimensions of all of my pieces. I'm including a little bit of details. I'm not necessarily stating that it is refinished, but if people ask me in the messages, I go ahead and tell them, of course, you know, it's refinished, this is my process, this is the color. And then I also offer delivery, and I tell them how I am going to accept payment, whether that be cash, Venmo, credit card, whatever you have the means to accept. That is what you put in your listing as well. And then of course, if people are messaging you, you just want to be super honest in the messages and transparent and make sure that they are getting the truth about the piece that you are selling to them. A lot of the times I will also put my social media handle into the description of my listings, because that allows people to go and see the work that I've completed, but it also allows people, even if they're not looking for the specific set that I maybe have listed, they can go still check out the other work that I've done, and I've had a lot of people reach out that way from social media to get their own pieces refinished by me. So just another little hack. You don't have to have a huge following. You could just build up your local following, and that is how you can get a ton of sales and even custom work in your local area, because at the end of the day, that's where most of us are selling our pieces of furniture. All right, I am going to be quiet now. Let me know if you have any more questions regarding Facebook Marketplace or the refinishing of these two pieces. I will update you as always with the sale of this set. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next Thursday with another video, and I'll see you on the flip side.